Your professor said a very stupid thing, and shout out to you for going right back at them. So here are 3 movies that probably their favorite guy directors love that are classic examples of chick flicks that I just watched in the last week. First is The Earrings of Madame Day by Max Ophuls. No way is your professor going to insult Paul Thomas Anderson, the best currently working American director. PTA loves this movie, so much that he did the introduction for the Criterion disc.
But it's obvious to me now, the story's sunk into my DNA of how to tell a story or what makes an interesting story. It just got in there so strongly. On reflection, I see these movies now and I think, my God, this is probably the first time I was seeing anything like this. And I see things that I have obviously been influenced by or tried to rip off or tried to tell a story in such a way. It's amazing how if a film is so good, it gets under your skin.
This movie is kind of like a French Anna Karenina about an aristocratic woman trapped in a loveless marriage who yearns for something more. They called this a woman's picture in its day, but take a look at this camera movement, which both PTA and I just adore. Also Wes Anderson and Edgar Wright too. They both included it on their Sight and Sound list of best movies ever. It's a beautiful, heart-wrenching movie about isolation and being trapped in social constructs. Notably, you never hear the woman's name, which is the point. Madame Day means the wife of, and the movie is making a point about the imprisoning nature of being a woman in that society and time. The only expression for a woman is as the wife of someone. That's also a big part of the movie Rebecca by Alfred Hitchcock. Rebecca is about a young woman becoming the second wife of an aristocratic man played by Laurence Olivier. Again, she's a nameless woman. You never find out her name, played by Joan Fontaine, which is one of the things that made the original book by Daphne du Maurier so popular. The name Rebecca refers to the aristocrat's first wife, who you never see, but who died under mysterious circumstances and whose presence looms impossibly large in the book.
You're overwrought, madam. I've opened a window for you. A little air will do you good. Why don't you go? Why don't you leave Manderley? He doesn't need you. You've nothing to stay for. You've nothing to live for, really, have you?
Daphne du Maurier was most likely bisexual and had gender dysphoria, and the movie is a fascinating exploration of gender roles. It has strong lesbian themes.
I embroidered this case for her myself, and I keep it here always. Did you ever see anything so delicate? Look, you can see my hand through it.
And strong exploration of parasocial relationships between women. It's so good. Not sure your professor needs to know which directors were influenced by Hitchcock, but basically every single director since the 60s. Scorsese, De Palma, Spielberg, Fincher, Bong Joon-ho, Godard, Truffaut, Lynch, name them. Everyone is. Everyone lives in his shadow. This was an Oscar winner, but it was still a chick flick or women's picture. It was expressly made targeted at women, as you can see in the helpful booklet that came in my Criterion copy, where producer David O. Selznick says that the picture needs to capture the book's ability to make every woman say, I know just how she feels, and I know just what she's going through, and so on. He goes on to say that every woman who has read the book has adored the girl and has understood her psychology, has cringed with embarrassment for her, yet understood exactly what was going through her mind. That's a picture targeted at women. That's a women's picture. And lastly, just tonight I watched All That Heaven Allows by Douglas Sirk, which is one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen. This is also about a woman trapped by her social circumstances. In this case, she's a widow who falls in love with her former gardener, who is free-spirited and of a lower class than her. So all of her social circle and her children try to prevent it from happening. This movie and Sirk as a director are loved by Wong Kar-wai, Rainer Werner Fassbinder, Quentin Tarantino, Pedro Almodovar, and especially the brilliant Todd Haynes, who did maybe the best movie of the 90s in Safe, also a women's picture, which is saying something given how much I love that decade.
Mommy?
And he shot Far From Heaven, which is about as explicit an homage to Sirk as you can get. So, I don't say this too much about people's thoughts on film, but your professor's quite literally wrong. Calling them bottom tier cinema is just literally wrong. But the professor is a good example of the cycle of women's films, because a lot of women's films are typically critically panned in their own time, despite, audiences loving them, and then it takes critics years to catch on. If they're saying that about more recent stuff, then they probably just need a few years to catch up. But you're also right in that it's veiled misogyny. Generously, I'll also call it unintentional queer phobia too, as a lot of women's pictures dealt with people being trapped in social circumstances that were imprisoning and made it impossible to express their true self. As a result, they were one of the primary vectors of queer representation, both explicitly, famously as in Suddenly Last Summer, and implicitly as in the aforementioned Rebecca, Written on the Wind, Christopher Strong, and so many of them. So yeah, consigning movies that represent women and queer people to the bottom tier of cinema, well, this is why so many people can't stand film people, and why I get kind of nervous to tell people I love movies as a straight dude, because I don't want to be lumped in with that, which ironically makes me want to watch more movies about people trapped in their social circumstances, which means I get to watch a lot of great women's pictures, but would be better if your professor just kind of stopped. Especially as a film professor, how did they not know this? They're a film professor.